So we've been hearing a lot that cold outreach is dead. But after sending millions of emails and making hundreds of thousands of cold calls this year alone, that's not at all what we're seeing in the data. Now look, if you have an outdated list, you're using bad infrastructure, you're not doing any research on your prospects, or if your outreach isn't relevant, then yeah, you're toast. You're probably not gonna land in the inbox, you're gonna show up as spam, and even if you do connect with someone, you're not gonna have a relevant enough message to get them to take action. But here's what the people who say cold outreach is dead don't understand. If you set your infrastructure up correctly, if you gather really good data, and if you run lots of tests and improve based on those tests, you're gonna win. Now, everyone that we've heard saying cold outreach doesn't work has one of three things in common. One, they've worked with an agency that had no idea what they were doing and got horrible results. Two, they tried it themselves and failed to set up correct infrastructure, gather good data, or write compelling copy, so they didn't see results. And three, some people have just never tried it because they themselves don't respond to cold outreach. The commonality between all of these is not having enough information. In this video, I'm gonna give you that information. I'll show you why cold outreach has worked for thousands of years, the 3 pillars that make or break every campaign, and a best practice that's actually destroying people's results. Plus, I'll show you how to build a system that gives you predictable pipeline that you can toggle up or down based on your capacity. Now, if you're finding this valuable, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the series on building outbound systems that actually work. All right, let's get into it. So something most people don't think about is that humans have been doing cold outreach for thousands of years. Think about the ancient spice trader walking through a market. He wasn't convincing people they needed pepper. He was trying to find the person who was already looking for pepper but didn't know where to get it yet. And that's the principle that's never changed and why cold outreach never stops working. You're not creating demand, you're just finding it. All cold outreach works the same way, regardless of the medium, regardless of when it's done and how it's done. You're the bridge between someone's current state and a desired state that they couldn't easily reach alone. Whether you're sending an email, making a cold call, sending a letter, knocking on doors, whatever the offer is, you're seeking out that demand. Now, this is why sales is a numbers game. But that phrase can be misleading because it's not just about volume for volume's sake. The theory here is that demand is distributed unevenly across the population, and outreach is the filtering mechanism to find it. So the question isn't whether cold outreach works, it's already worked. The question is, are you filtering effectively? Are you finding the people who already have the demand? And that brings us to what actually makes the filtering work. The 3 pillars that separate campaigns that consistently fill pipeline from campaigns that get ignored. When we see cold outreach actually working, and by working, I mean consistently filling your pipeline, the main difference is how these campaigns are built. It really boils down to the system being built on 3 core fundamentals. Number 1 is infrastructure. Your infrastructure needs to be set up to ensure that, in this case, your emails are actually getting delivered to the main inbox, not going to spam. And the phone numbers you're dialing with don't get marked as spam when you're cold calling. And if they do get marked as spam, you need a system in place to get that flag lifted. So something that people get wrong, specifically with cold calling, is that you cannot just use one phone number and make hundreds of outbound dials per day from it. It only takes 50 to 100 unsolicited calls for your number to get marked as spam across all carriers, and managing this yourself is an absolute nightmare. That's why we use a pool of 5 to 10 numbers for each client campaign matched to their area code, and we have a team monitoring these numbers for spam flags and reaching out to carriers directly to get them lifted when we detect them. And at the end of the day, if your number is marked as spam, you're losing before you even make the dial. So say goodbye to even trying to make a good cold calling script. Pillar number 2 is the data. The data has to actually fit your ICP. You're reaching out to the right people and you need validated contact information for each lead. If you source 5,000 emails, but 20% of those emails bounce, then you're toast. Your domain reputation, your inbox reputation, they're both gonna tank and you're not gonna show up in the inbox for anybody. And then pillar 3 is copy. Your copy has to be relevant. It has to be drafted to speak directly to your ICP. And by copy, I mean both emails and cold call scripts. Everything needs to be speaking to that same person and communicating your offer in a way that resonates with that ICP you're reaching out to. So here's the thing that separates the campaigns that book meetings from those that get ignored. Outreach that books meetings feels like one-on-one communication between you and the prospect. Whereas outreach that gets ignored feels like you're sending a mass email into the void hoping a few people respond. And the recipients can feel that. I see so many agencies advertising that they'll send hundreds of thousands of emails for a client in a month and they'll get maybe a 1% to 1.5% response rate. And that's great, good for them, because at that volume, those are decent numbers from a pure lead standpoint. But why wouldn't you just send more targeted, relevant, personal emails and get a 7 to 10% response rate? Yes, it takes longer to work through the entire list. It's more expensive to get that data. But the replies you get are better, higher intent, and more likely to convert. And the prospect feels like you know them when you reach out with having done that research. In short, it's harder to do, which is why most people don't even try and they just go with the bulk email approach. Real quick, if you want to meet with me one-on-one and walk through how a cold outreach system can be implemented in your business, check out the booking link in the description of this video. All right, back to it. So there are 3 things that kill a cold outreach campaign before it even has a chance to work. 1 is bad infrastructure. If your emails land in spam and your phone calls automatically get flagged, you don't even have a chance to get in front of the right person. 2 is going to be bad data. If you don't have good data, you're not reaching the right people. Doesn't matter if your infrastructure is perfect and your copy is bulletproof. And 3 is bad copy. Even if you nailed the first 2, but your copy sucks, you're gonna be discarded with all the other poorly written spam emails that someone gets on a daily basis. And you're gonna get hung up on right away. At the end of the day, cold outreach is simple. If you master these 3 pillars, you succeed, but it's not easy to execute. So don't overcomplicate it, stick to the fundamentals, and make sure that you do everything right. All right, now I'm gonna get into a best practice that we've seen is actually killing people's results. Personalization. Now, personalization is great, don't get me wrong. Good personalization leads to great results, and that's what I attribute a lot of our success at Axia to. What I'm talking about is too much personalization and irrelevant personalization. There are a lot of people who have AI go and generate an entire email or even an entire line of an email, and this is a surefire way to do 2 things. 1, you're gonna generate a ton of AI slop. 60% of those AI generated lines or emails are just horrible and someone's gonna see it in their inbox, if it even makes it to their inbox, and they're gonna delete it right away. And 2, it's a great way to never get responses on your email because of number 1. Now, don't get me wrong, AI is really powerful for personalizing emails, but you have to use it correctly. It's a great tool to create short variables in your email copy, but not to create the entire email themselves. Variables like company nickname, because you don't want to say, I'm reaching out to Axia Growth LLC. That just sounds like you're pasting in a name variable that you scrape from a list. You want to shorten it to Axia Growth. Core expertise, so what does this business do at its core in 3 to 5 words? We use that one quite a bit. Product name, really anything you can gather from the business that's less than 5 words with a prompt that gives you a reliable output. But if you're gonna use AI to generate the entire email, you're better off just not sending one anyways. There's too much margin for error there. And this connects to why so many of our clients have tried cold outreach once or twice in the past and then declared that it doesn't work. Because they either have done it themselves and they don't understand the fundamentals, or the agency that they contracted to do it didn't understand the fundamentals and could not drive sufficient results for them. For cold outreach to be effective, you need all pieces, the data, infrastructure, and the copy to be optimized. And if any one of them is broken, the entire system fails. At its core, cold outreach never stops working. It just gets harder to stand out as the barrier to entry gets lower. So now we're gonna go into what happens when a firm gives up on outbound and relies entirely on inbound leads or referrals. Most importantly, they lose a predictable source of leads. Now, inbound referrals are great. I love getting inbound leads, I love getting referrals, but you don't have full control over them. With an effective outbound system, on the other hand, you can predictably generate a steady pipeline of qualified leads. And the real value is that you can toggle it up or down based on your capacity. If you onboard some team members and have the capacity to double the amount of deals or clients you take on each month, then you can double the number of emails you're sending, double the cold calls, and assuming your conversion rates stay about the same, you'll double the amount of clients you're bringing on or deals you're signing. I've seen clients come to us who have built their entire business on referrals and inbound leads. They've never done any outbound marketing. And that's great because those 2 sources can get you to a point and you can grow a really solid business from just inbound and referrals alone. But once those sources stop producing, and you have no control over when that happens, by the way, sales will slow down and you're gonna get put in a tough spot. So when clients come to us like this, we help them diversify their lead sources and build an engine for reliable deal flow. Then once referrals and inbound pick back up, it's a bonus. You have extra leads. It's a great place to be as a business owner. Now, the bottom line here is that firms with predictable lead generation and pipelines have systems. Firms who are scrambling for the next deal don't. And without systems to ensure that while you're working your current pipeline and getting deals across the finish line, you also have more leads coming in, you end up in the feast or famine cycle that plagues so many clients that come to us. Now, if I could only give one piece of advice to a business owner who's convinced cold outreach doesn't work, here's what it would be. Find someone who knows what they're doing and has the results to back it up, and then either learn everything you can from them and implement it yourself, or have them set up a campaign, run it, and manage it for you. It's taken me years to get to the point where I can confidently launch a campaign that generates a steady pipeline of leads. Lots of lessons were learned the hard way. So if you try to do it yourself, you're gonna go through that process of failing, learning, and improving. And if you have the time, great. But often people quit before they get to the point where it starts working because it's hard. And as a successful business owner, it's probably not worth your time to get into the weeds of ensuring optimal email deliverability or making sure your phone numbers get marked as spam or how you can go and scrape the best list of data. Find someone to do it for you, whether it's us or someone else, have them generate leads, close those leads, and the ROI you see will be insane as long as they're properly pricing their service. And remember, if you want to meet with me one-on-one to talk through how a cold outreach system can work in your business, check out the booking link in the description of this video. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment with any questions, and see you guys in the next one.